Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fatin Nadhirah binti Bahrain from 4 BTMM Church Lawan. My supervisor's name was Madam Siti Nawaratul Aina binti Muhammad Yusuf and my panel name was Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Syaiful Rizal bin Abdul Hamid. In this video, I want to present about my final year project, which is Consumer Perception on Internet of Things towards e-sport among Malaysian young adults. Okay, for the next slide, we go to the research question and research objective. For the research question, RQ1 is what is the prevalence of the implementation Internet of Things into e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. RQ2 is what is the relationship of the Internet of Things in e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. RQ3 is which factor is most influencing consumer perception of the Internet of Things in e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. For the research objective, first, RO1 is to analyze the implementation Internet of Things towards e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. RO2 is to examine the relationship of the Internet of Things in e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. RO3 is to determine the most factor influencing consumer perception on the Internet of Things in e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. Okay, for the next slide, we go to the research question and research objective. For the research question, RQ1 is what is the prevalence of the implementation Internet of Things into e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. RQ2 is what is the relationship of the Internet of Things in e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. RQ3 is which factor is most influencing consumer perception of the Internet of Things in e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. For the research objective, first, RO1 is to analyze the implementation Internet of Things towards e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. RO2 is to examine the relationship of the Internet of Things in e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. RO3 is to determine the most factor influencing consumer perception on the Internet of Things in e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. Next, for the literature review, it can be shown in the table. The performance expectancy be described as a degree of the user's expectation if using technology will be benefit. Second is the facilitating condition, which is the individual belief that technicals and organization infrastructure exist to support the technology usage. And the third one is the perceived risk that be defined as an individual's perception that confidential information that can be exposed directly through IoT service. The last IB was a perceived cost, where there are a value in the IoT product that will be costly. For the dependent variables, which is the consumer perception on Internet of Things toward e-sport, the perception is a term that be used regularly in everyday conversation to understand aspects of human behavior, especially on the acceptance of e-sport industry. Then we go to the next slide, which is theoretical framework. The first independent variable, which is the performance expectancy. The second one is the facilitating condition. The third one is the perceived risk, and the last one is perceived cost. And then the dependent variable was the consumer perception on Internet of Things towards e-sport. Then we go to the hypothesis research. The first one is the facilitating condition factor significantly has impact consumer perception of the Internet of Things towards e-sport. Second, the performance expectancy factor significantly impacts consumer perception of the Internet of Things towards e-sport. The third one is the perceived risk factor significantly not affects consumer perception of the Internet of Things towards e-sport. The fourth one is the perceived cost factors that specifically not impacts consumer perception of the Internet of Things towards e-sport. Then we go to the next slide, which is research methodology. In the research method, the quantitative method has been used. On the research design, I have used descriptive research design and exploratory research design. Then I have used a primary and secondary data as a data collection method. And lastly, in data analysis method, there are used SPSS version 26 to analyze the descriptive analysis, reliability analysis, person correlation analysis, multiple regression analysis, and also the pilot test. For the sample respondent, the sample size is 384 respondents that will range age 18 to 35 years old. The target population was on Northern region, East Coast region, Central region, and also the Southern region. In my research, the respondents' profile for gender was majority with a male at the age from 21 to 25 years old, and the ethnicity dominant to the Malay, then be followed to Chinese and also lastly the Indian. It shows in the graph of occupation that student was the highest respondent that involved in this research, then followed by the others occupation. For the income level of the respondent, it was at RM1000 and below. The location of the current and origin country of the respondents majority from the southern area. For the education level, the most go to the level STPM and also diploma. Lastly is the spending hours of the respondent to the e-sport games was at 5 to 8 hours per day. Next slide is the research discussion for the RO1 to analyze the implementation Internet of Things towards e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. It shows in the table of descriptive statistics that the mean of facilitating condition was 4.4542, then the performance expectancy at 4.339, and perceived is at 4.3224, and lastly is the perceived cost at 2.8516. It shows that the only perceived cost that has the lowest mean on the descriptive statistics for the RO1. For the RO2, to examine the relationship of the Internet of Things in e-sport among young adults in Malaysia, in the table of correlation shows that the performance expectancy has a moderate relationship with the facilitating condition. Meanwhile, the other relationship factors has a small relationship but still can be defined as a relationship between the others. Only on the relationship between the perceived risk and perceived cost that almost negligible. In the next slide, the RO3 has been achieved by look at the coefficient table which the RO3 want to determine the most influencing consumer perception on the Internet of Things in e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. There are two factors that significant, which is facilitating condition and performance expectancy. It is shown in the table. It is because of the B value is 0.000, which is below than 0.005. Then we go to the limitation slide. Firstly is the unwillingness and the cluelessness of the respondent to answer the questionnaire. Second is English language that we use must be hardly to be understood by the respondent. The thirdly is time constraint when conducting the research is limited. And lastly is during MCO, the questionnaire may not be the most accurate findings to reflect all the overall of the respondent. In conclusion, the research has deepened understanding on solving the research problem with an accurate methodology to facilitate the development of the e-sport industry to further grow. The factors of facilitating condition and performance expectancy was the important factors that influencing consumer perception on Internet of Things toward e-sport among young adults in Malaysia. This will give an benefit to the academic or scholar, the policymaker or government, and also the practical industry. After this, we can go to see the concept of my research, and that's all from me. Thank you.